Welcome to Goats in the Metaverse, my friends. I am ecstatic today. We have probably one of the biggest guests this show has ever had. I won't spoil the surprise for you yet, but this gentleman is a Hollywood superstar and a big player in the Web3 space, somebody that I got to know over time, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. Special surprise for everybody. Let's get right into it. Welcome to Goats in the Metaverse. I have my co host, Yasi. Yasi, this is a big, big, big moment on the show. We got a
It
big,
is a
big
big
player over
moment.
here. And he has a lot
Tell,
to say. He has a
Without
lot
spilling the
to
beans
say.
of who it is, does your hat have anything to do with it, Stanley? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Leave a comment below. Is the hat involved? Let's bring him on without further ado. Mr. Seth Green, welcome to Goats and the Metaverse, my friend.
Thanks.
We're happy to have you on. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm nursing a little bit of a head cold, which luckily is not COVID, but is definitely, um, you know, doing it.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, and especially with a head cold, to come join us. And would love to, for those of the audience, obviously everybody knows who you are, but tell us a little bit about Seth Green. Most importantly, Seth, how did you get into Web3? I think that is the number one question on everybody's mind.
Um, I'm friends with Steve Aoki, and he's a very expensive friend to have. He approached me and the production studio that I'm a partner in about creating a bit of content for him on blockchain. He wanted to make not a PFP, but a project that was actual like narrative content on blockchain. And I was really excited about the possibility of doing that. I love doing things that haven't been done before. I love trying new means of entertaining people through modern technology. And so while we were developing that project, he mentioned to me, oh, no, while we were developing that project, I think Beeple sold an NFT via Sotheby's, and all of a sudden there was a conversation about NFT as art and collectibles rather than commodified certificates of authenticity. And so that was interesting to me, just this new format. Potentially, it's not like you're going to suddenly shift the entire world to a new internet, but the means of both financing and producing entertainment stuff in a new way, that's always exciting to me. And then Steve mentioned, because I was like, well, which of these projects do you even, what of any of this is worth looking at? And he pointed me to the apes and mentioned the fact that while there's 10,000 individual items in this collection that will forever reference back the original collection, that any holder of each of these individual things could literally do whatever they wanted with it. From develop a story to develop a body to create an entirely new idea utilizing that character. And having loved bands like the Gorillaz or iconic comedians like Tony Clifton, I was really interested in the idea of a pseudonymous identity, or at least having the option of creating a character that's not me. I'm a well-known personality, but in my performances, I try to create another character that's definitively not me. But having a brand new idea, that was really interesting. And as a developer, I pay artists all the time for new work. You pay artists all the time to come up with an icon or a visual representation of a character that you've created. So for me, paying for one of these things, at least at the time that I got in, wasn't too heavy a lift to justify, because it's exactly the kind of procedure I'd go through with an artist. But in this case, the work of the artist could reference back to a larger collective. That's something that really struck me interesting, is sort of a collective copyright where anybody who bought into this collection has the opportunity to develop something either on behalf of the collection itself, to say, this is an ape, this is part of the apes, they've got this boat, and here's all the details, or take it somewhere completely different, like I've done with Whitehorse, and tell a story that doesn't really have anything to do with the apes, but is able to be referenced back to the original collection. That I think is really cool. So you have all of these unique perspectives of a collective that everyone is still a part of. And it works better than Facebook, right? So Facebook is the collective, but each person's individual page is so personal and so exposing. It makes a level of vulnerability that I don't think anybody really suspected when they tried to enter into that collective to feel a part of a larger whole. But NFT offers a different opportunity for that, which I think is cool.
I think that's super interesting because, we interview founders all the time, and we interview obviously a bunch of different people in the space. And that's a completely different perspective, right? Where most people are not actually thinking about that, you have to pay an artist, right? You have to then go ahead and kind of hire somebody, right? And now you're saying, like, from the business perspective and from the artist perspective, you have an opportunity to now own this IP and utilize and build out that IP. So you're giving a different perspective on it completely.
Yeah, people classify IP in different ways too. Like, intellectual property has such a broad definition that I've been saying that NFT is as versatile a noun as automobile, right? So people don't know anything about NFT, and they assume it is all of these things that they've been hearing worst case scenarios about. But NFT is just a technology. It's its application that becomes, for good or for evil, right? My entree into this was not at all from a financial standpoint. Like, I don't like those kinds of investments. I've never messed with stocks or bonds or hedges or dividends or any of that stuff. I don't like any of that. But the idea of value around an idea, that's exciting to me.
So you never came into the Bored Ape world, so to speak, as a trader or as a long-term investor. What really got your interest was this idea of co-ownership of a brand, of a story, of a world that could be built, but the participants of building that world are the individuals who own the NFT. And that idea is what intrigued you to enter into the space when Steve said you should check this out?
Yeah. Well, I've also, I've been interested in comics and collectibles and all of this genre entertainment, which has become the vogue, the most money-making concepts on the planet. I've been into all this stuff for as long as I can remember. And I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con for over 20 years and experiencing that first-person connection with these other fans, no matter how unpopular or poorly groomed they may have been in the early days. But there was a point where all of Hollywood and all of entertainment came to Comic-Con because these icons, these characters, these stories, they were so relevant and they were so attractive to such a large audience that they had to show up and recognize the opportunity. They had to invest more into making these offerings accessible to everybody. And that's what we've seen. But I still am old enough to remember a time when I was beat about the face and head with my own metal Fantastic Four lunchbox just for liking comics. And now, the fight is over. There's an entire world at Disneyland dedicated to Star Wars. Like, we won definitively. So for me, that's always been the obvious thing, that pop reacts and gathers around something that is compelling, that is humorous, that they can relate to, that they can support and champion. I don't think this is going to look the way most people are hedging, right? This isn't going to suddenly be VeeFriends is bigger than Disney, and or that Fred is as popular as Mickey Mouse. Those things don't happen overnight. And the toughest thing is that you've got two completely different mindsets clashing around this same technology. There's the people who are interested in day trading and flipping and hedging and buying something to make money and to earn on it. And they see these things as like chits or commodities. But the real opportunity is much bigger than that. And that's what you're seeing from the other side, which is all these artists who've never had a viable platform for residuals, never had a guarantee of royalties associated with any of their work, and usually got fucked in the sale or future sales of their works. They don't really have a connection to it. And it's even harder to become a famous artist while you're alive. But all of those people are creating stuff, building worlds, creating characters, building communities that are passionately enthusiastic about their given idea. A Deadfellas is one of the best examples of something where it can grow into anything that they want it to. Because right now, what they've got is a core audience of passionately dedicated people who love this idea, whatever it's going to become.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think the other part is if you look at, what are we in this thing really, a year and a half, and how many communities were able to be built in such a short period of time. Obviously, you could look at the numbers and the billions of dollars, which is crazy in its own right. But just the community of passionate people who, live, breathe, eat this, 18 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and it gives them life. Now, if you look at kind of other communities that are formed in the Web2 world, one, it usually takes a lot longer to build those communities. And it's much harder to build a community, right? I mean, it's hard to build one in NFTs as well, but it seems like there's a lot of them out there and they're making noise and people are believers. And, that's why they buy into it. And that's why they continue to build into it. And most of them are being built organically, right? And I mean, we see that kind of with you, right? You're utilizing Bored Ape Yacht Club as one of your main characters to go build a project.
Which could work for me or against me. When Eitan and I talked about creating this show, we even had a conversation about using an ape as one of the central characters, like because you're obligated to anything that any other member does. Right. So if somebody goes out and wears an ape and shoots up a school, it puts a bad spin on the apes themselves. And so there's a little bit of public trust amongst the community that no one is out to scam other people or steal or hurt or marginalize or victimize anybody. But that was a conversation that we had of like, oh God, what if this whole thing spoils and no one is interested in getting to know this character simply because of their pre-established prejudices related to the project. But I felt like that was the biggest reason why we moved as quickly as we did. Like we shot this in March, and that was the only way that we could get ahead of what was coming. Because everybody is trying to build on their NFT. Everyone is, and I love this. I actually was really excited by it. After we talked so much about naming this ape and making him this character, people just started naming their characters and saying, these are all his attributes. These are all their personality. And I'm like, fuck yes, now we're doing it. Now we're really doing it. Now we're tapping into that collective creativity and inspiring each other to be creative, to make something on behalf of this larger brand that supports and grows it in a way that's actually valuable.
And just so for people watching that don't know, to tell us a little bit about, I mean, you said you shot this thing quick. Give us a little bit more insights on what did you shoot?
What is it?
What is it? What are you doing? Give us,
what are you guys making?
Yeah.
Well, what we're making is a hybrid live action animated show where about a local watering hole called the White Horse Tavern. And this is a bar in a New York City where anyone is welcome. You can escape your problems, maybe even solve them. You're gonna get welcomed and you can share this space. You just can't be a horse's ass because we have a strict policy against that. And if you are a horse's ass, you gotta bounce. You come back some other time when you're less of a horse's ass. But today you got to go. And so that's really the story. It's the bartenders. I play one of the bartenders, Fred, and it's really a relationship of a found family, right? So these two bartenders, me and this other girl, the characters are called Ophelia. They are like the parents of the servers, the people that work there in the kitchen. They are like parental units for all of these people. But we want to explore all the different types of things that people go through in life and find some humor in that. And a bar is one of the best places to explore all of that. I grew up on Cheers. The best way to describe this is like a cross between Cheers and Ted, except that in Ted, the world was aware that Ted was a stuffed bear who came to life because a little boy had a magic wish. And then everybody just had to deal with it 30 years later. This is how that happened. So in Whitehorse, no one cares or notices that this guy's an ape or that guy's a digital frog or that guy's a cop or this lady's wearing a hijab. Like, nobody cares. This is New York. You just don't be a dick. So that's really the pitch of the show. We want to explore the lives and times of these characters, how they befriend and care for one another. We'll have a revolving door of regulars and recurring and once in a lifetime guest stars. The fun thing about a show like this is literally anybody can guest star, live action, animated, or otherwise.
Anyone can walk into the bar and share their story and their pains. Other than a phenomenal concept for the story, is it the world's first with this kind of hybridization of a show but using NFT characters is happening? Is that the first time something like this is happening?
I guess so. I don't know anybody that's developing content around NFT that isn't exclusive to that collection yet. But I like the idea of making a place that anybody can gather. I didn't feel like the most inspiring story was the root story of any of these projects. Or that I was going to be the one to tell, make the Dead Fellas show or whatever.
And that I was going to add to it. So it is multiple NFTs, right? And obviously it could be future NFTs down the field, or it could be
all things. But it's original animated characters. It's projects yet to be released. It's live action. It could be anything. We started the cast of animated characters with 3 different NFT, but also 2 wholly original animated characters. And whether or not we'd ever do a PFP collection of those characters in another time, I can't really say.
We'll break it here first. But on those NFTs that you chose, what was the considerations that you had to go through to decide which of these NFTs from the world of NFTs you're going to include in this kind of groundbreaking show?
Well, I'd been attracted to a bunch of collections from the art style and the story of the artists, or the story of the project themselves. And that was really how I went picking. Like, we were writing a show. We knew what the show was going to be, and we were defining each of these characters, and I was estimating who would not be animated. And so once we had like a real defined version of the character, then I could cast who the visual reference was.
And what were the IP considerations that you had to consider in?
Well, just had to make sure that it was open. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure that you've got actual legal ability to exploit this character. But I also went into it because when I'm excited about something, I'm interested in something, I get really deep into it. And so back in January, I just started hunting collections, and I started like building my own collection. And anything that I bought, I reached out directly to the creator, the artist, the project manager, and I was like, "Hey, what's up? I love this. What are you guys doing?" And in most cases, I pitched them directly what the idea was. Just like with the girlies, I got to pitch to Valeria and her dad directly and talk to them about what kind of care I would take of this child's creation, and they wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be gross or violent or ugly in any way. And talked them through what the story was and what I wanted that Izzy character to be. And they loved it. They loved it. So then it's been like that. I'm not trying to do anything deceitful or exploit a particular legal capability. I really wanted this to be in the spirit of what I thought Web3 was developing, which is an incredibly collaborative and supportive environment. As strange as it sounds, because there's this competitive sentiment of like, how can I make more money, and what are we building? I know I'm never going to get everybody, but I do feel like making a project like this that demonstrates how to build new intellectual property on an existing concept. I'm excited about that.
And Seth, I think the interesting part and the interesting question I have for you is, obviously you kind of made your name in Hollywood and Web2, and everybody knows you from all the different TV shows you've done and different movies you've done. So when they see you doing Web3 and coming out with this show, what's the reaction? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are they like, are you crazy? Like, are you looking for a job? Like, what are some of the things you're hearing? And kind of what's your, I guess the follow-up question would be like, what's your message to those people, right? Is it you guys don't get it and you're going to get it soon, or just wait and see?
Well, reactions have been varied depending on who's being asked. And what I noticed is when I went public about having that ape stolen, I got like 70% fuck you, you stupid rich asshole, ha 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 ha, dumb fucking idiot. 70%. But the other 30% was like, that happened to me. I'm in this. I had the same situation happen. Call this person. Here's someone you can help, who can help. And plenty of that is also just trying to take advantage of what people see as a vulnerable scam opportunity. But there were a lot of people that validated my opinions about this space. And there's always going to be assholes in any space. But the fact that the people who are in this space trying to build, trying to make stuff, that they reached out to me directly, that was validating about my beliefs of this in general.
Like White Horse Tavern, we're going to have the assholes that aren't going to be allowed in need to leave for the day. And what I love about the show that you're building is this blend of kind of reality and virtual reality. So you've got special guests, maybe a new PFP character that enters the scene that we don't even know about today, who wasn't one of the main characters. And what does it look like for this world that is collecting around these collections to be vying for them to be a guest on your show, or a specific character from those?
Yeah.
How does that all play out, like we see in the real world, bringing in special guests that have got some kind of fame and story behind them? I think it's fascinating to see how that all plays out.
Oh, thanks.
And for some people that don't know, White Horse Tavern is an actual bar in the West Village, right? I mean,
yeah, that's the thing. It's based on the second oldest bar in New York City, which has welcomed everybody from Jim Morrison to Dylan Thomas. Like, it is, anyone that's lived in New York for any length of time is aware of the White Horse Tavern. Harrison Ford was quoted as saying that he used to hang out there when he was living in the Village. It's got such a legendary status to it that it's a perfect jumping off point for any kind of fantasy, right? Like, especially in a world where characters could be animated, characters could be ghosts, we can toy with reality any way we want. Like a New York City where a percentage of the population is animated offers a completely different perspective on something as well known as the White Horse Tavern. Like, there's a new air of mystery by taking a real place with its own legends and infinite amount of stories inside those walls. So many personal reflections, so many people who are like, I already feel like I belong there. it makes such a great setting for the kind of show that we want to make.
And Seth, a lot of NFT projects these days come out and say, we have contacts in Hollywood, we have a producer from Netflix, we're going to turn this into an animated series. Yeah. For those people that don't understand, how hard is it to actually produce a series, a show, and what you're doing, which is half live action, half animated? Give some people some insights on, is it really hard? How hard is it? What does it actually involve?
Of course it is. I've spent the last 40 plus years of my life learning how to do all this. It's not something I'm just half-assed into. But especially making animation, it's incredibly complicated, time consuming, and usually very expensive. But the thing is, I think a lot of it was most interesting to me, like in the first couple months of this year, talking to all these people who are developing the most cutting edge intellectual property in the newest technological space, to realize that everyone's goal is the same. They want a movie, they want a show, they want a cartoon, they want to make stuffed animals. Like, everybody's pitch for what the goalpost is on this is the same. It's the same stuff that we've been making since the dawn of entertainment. The difference is the how and the like just the way in which it can gather people. There's an instantaneous quality to Web3, which I think is gonna butt up against the realities of the time it takes to produce anything, to make it look good, right? Because I've seen dozens of people put together the most basic like Harmony Maya programs around a thing and like give it very, like a novel preview. I don't know if you've ever seen like an animated preview of a novel where it has like the most, it's so inexpensively rigged. All of these characters, it's like lacks definition. The movement, it all feels very computery. So anybody can do anything with that. And I looked at a bunch of the projects that were coming out, like the Red Ape Chronicles. Like, somebody made an animated show about their red apes and stuntman gear. And it's not like any of that's not great, but it's more, I think all these people who have their eyes set or have their sights set on that kind of execution of a project, there's going to be a moment where they realize it's just going to take longer, or it's going to cost more so that it looks even halfway decent. Because this isn't about just like pumping shit out. I don't think Web3 is just about like glutting the marketplace with tons of animated stuff. Like, it's unsustainable. If you really want any of these things to break through to an audience, for them to care about it, to love it, to want to have a stuffed animal or a keychain or fucking jacket, or even claim allegiance to any of these projects, you have to have something that will grab people. Nobody outside of the Web3 community gives a fuck about any of this. So if you say pudgy penguins, they don't give a shit. It's a, you know what I mean? They literally don't have any vested interest in making any of these characters stars or making any of this intellectual property successful. And the only attraction from a lot of those people is like, how can I make money off of this? So I think all the project founders, the people who are carrying them on, whatever your goal is, you need to really focus on that realistically and push yourself towards that. The hard part with a lot of these collections, they're trying to offer a utility that brings about a consistent reinvestment in the project. Like, they want people to spend more money to be a part of the project because they're offering a t-shirt or a $150 hat. And I just don't think that kind of utility is sustainable. So,
well, they've got the other challenge of everyone's watching the floor price every day. And if you don't come out with something every second day, the floor price is going to tank. And if you want to make an animated series, it could take 2, 3, 4 years to produce something proper, and the community disappears. So how do you play those two parts as a founder is what everyone's trying to grapple with.
There's also something a little more slippery, which is what qualifies as a security under the SEC regulations. And so even our most blue sky pitches about what an NFT project can be has to exclude the reality that you could ever have a DAO making money off of an intellectual property that's exploited in TV or film, because you get into a whole new territory of what's an investment versus what's a promise of security. Like there's a lot of laws in place that prevent 10,000 people from making money enough to put it into a project and then reap the benefit of it. It gets without going public, without becoming a completely different classification of a company. And I imagine that most of the people day trading on, Deadfellas or Murakami or the flowers, like Solana flowers, like they're never even considering that.
No, I think that's the least of their concerns. And Seth, what's the conversation in Hollywood and Web 2? Like, are people interested in this space? Are they looking for ways to get in? Or now that crypto's kind of down and everyone's like, it was a fad, it lasted.
Crypto down, Ethereum's up like 2K. I don't think anyone in Hollywood gives a shit about any of this until they can see that it makes money. That's the hard truth about it, is that no one's really interested. So you're seeing a little bit of celebrities releasing NFT with the hope of generating money around some collection. Like, I can't believe Anthony Hopkins put out a collection, guys, and bought something, made a big fuss of, hello, everyone, I've bought my first Beeple, or whatever the fuck. So silly. And then like 2 weeks later, he puts out a collection. I don't know. But to answer that, I don't think anyone's interested in it. They're definitely not like, I've got to get in this space. Companies like Nickelodeon's trying to figure out what's the way we own all this art, all this IP. Maybe we release a Turtles NFT, but it's not going to do. The people that are interested in buying NFT are either interested in making money or being part of a collective and being able to have some kind of membership benefit from that collective. And so there's a whole other faction of people that are just buying art and justifying the expense of it with the fact that they've got the COA of that particular art on blockchain. But there's no universality to this audience. And the people
Which is what makes it so great.
I think so. There's an access portal for almost anybody. It just depends where they're coming from. But Hollywood's only interested. Well, let me put it to you this way. Hollywood came to Comic-Con when Hasbro agreed to finance a Transformers movie. So back in 2007, Hasbro put a ton of money, not only into this movie, going Hollywood, getting beta directed. They had, for the very first time, an installation at Comic-Con. They had a fucking big rig, like an 18-wheeler, painted to look like Optimus Prime, draped in a black cloth with Autobot symbols all over it. It was like, coming next summer. And everybody was like, holy shit, someone put some money into Transformers. Do you see what I'm saying? And then it was that when Hollywood realized that Comic-Con was a captive collection of passionate fans who they could weaponize as grassroots support for stuff that maybe wasn't poised to break through pop as hard. That's when in 10 or 12, we started seeing planes flying around the convention center with an ad for Dexter. And I was like, I didn't really think Dexter was a Comic-Con show. But that was when San Diego started evolving into like a whole collective con where you could have a Hall H panel for Twilight alongside the Hall H panel for Spider-Man.
So
that's my only thing. I think that Hollywood will come once the passion is big enough. The passion is big enough.
I mean, we talk about on the show a lot, like as far as, in order for Web3 to really succeed, you obviously need more Web2 adopters, right? You need more and more people to kind of continue to come into space, drink the Kool-Aid and convert to Web3.
I guess it just depends on the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? And like, if that's the goal, if the whole goal is mass adoption, I don't know that we're going to get there anytime soon. Like, what constitutes mass adoption? It's not, I don't know if it's an achievable goal in the short term. Because what we're really talking about is getting somebody who thinks NFT are a scam and that Web3 is unknowable to understanding what is happening in the space and why it's viable. What's happening in the space is a brand new attempt to create a collectively owned copyright and an immutable authentication of a particular asset. That's what Web3 really is right now. Right. Is you've got something that can't be destroyed or refuted, and then you've got a bunch of people trying to figure out what to do with that. But
at the same time, you had Nike, who just announced they made $189 million, right? And you have brands that have to be sitting there and looking and saying, "Wait a minute, they just made $189 million in Web3 selling NFTs."
Yeah,
we need.
Why
some
are we
of that.
not doing? Yeah, we can't even do that, through online sales or whatever it is.
It's true. But if you're a brand as big as Nike, and you see an opportunity like Artifact Studios already producing digital versions of sneakers or clothing, and you're like, holy shit, we need to corner the market, whatever this is, if somebody's manufacturing digital clothing and sneakers, even if there never is a Ready Player One style metaverse, or even if it is all just us visiting each other's Aoki space pods, like, you're gonna want to be able to dress up your avatar in these sneakers and these clothes. That was the hedge. So they bought Artifact Studios, which even at their purchase price was nothing for a company like Nike. They can afford to take this kind of risk. Not everybody can do that. And not everybody's product is Nike. I feel bad for companies like Yoplait looking at Nike make $180 million, being like, how the fuck can we get any of this NFT money? You might not be able to.
Which is true, because I think the Web3 space looks at newcomers, right, and say, a lot of times says, or Web2 people, and say, it's a cash play, right? I mean, talking about Anthony Hopkins coming in and releasing his NFT, I don't think Web3 people are saying, I need to go buy this NFT because it's going to make history.
But you could see that being an attempt at onboarding people who've never bought an NFT before, like what the Chive did with that Bill Murray NFT. They released 1,000 NFT on Coinbase, and it sold out at its price, which was something like 1 to 3K, I think. And each one of these NFT come with not just a story or an experience or some kind of anecdote from Bill Murray himself, but a utility of getting to meet up at different events over the year that the company's producing. So that kind of thing, that's very attractive to a lot of people who've never considered NFT, because they're able to buy into a club that they want to be a part of.
That they couldn't access before.
Exactly. That kind of utility, I think, is what's going to create any kind of crossover appeal. But the biggest thing that I say is just this technology is so new. And because the entire architecture of it is built on something else, right? Like NFT is built on a commodities trading technology. And the complication of that is going to make it very difficult for anybody who's not highly technically savvy to have any interest in getting on board, especially when you hear stories like mine of something that is stolen so easily and then is significant. It's a significant loss, in its recovery. That's the challenge. So I think it's up to all these companies like MetaMask, like Ledger, any of these places that are still using non-consumer friendly attributes. That's the biggest evolution that's preventing anybody from joining, is that it seems like gambling. It seems like the fastest way to accidentally lose money possible. And even if you like this barn owl or whatever your project is, there's no certainty to it. There's no certainty to it retaining its value. So for anybody who's just not exploring that, like, think about how hard it was to get people on Twitter. Just to get people on Twitter, it was like a 5-year process to make the average person even interested in getting alerts on what everyone is talking about and want to weigh in on whether or not they like that person's point of view. That entire cultural construct took years to implement.
So do you think we're ahead of the curve?
What a hashtag was and Follow Friday is.
Yeah, we are well ahead of the curve just by having been in this in the first few months of its cultural adoption. And it's hard to be pioneers in any space because you're gonna get scammed a lot. You're gonna fuck up over and over again, and you're gonna take risks that you feel justified in taking that might not work out. But
So
in the
Seth,
same way that
why create the first show then that is doing this and not wait to see and have a little bit more,
the same
certainty
reason
whether this
the
thing
same
works out or
reason I
not?
was because the same reason I was loudly declaring my love of the Fantastic Four in the third grade, because this is just what I'm excited about. It's what I'm passionate about. This is the way I like to. I'm here. I'm here because I like my favorite thing to do in life is get a bunch of people together and put on a show for an audience. My favorite thing, whatever shape the putting it together takes, whatever shape the showing it to sharing it with an audience takes. That's my passion. And I saw this space as a new opportunity to both reach people, to collect passionate enthusiasts around a new idea, to collaborate with other creators on stuff that was brand new and interesting to me. The best way I can summarize it, I love pop culture. I'm deep into pop culture. I love pop culture so much. I made a series for the last 17 years that deconstructs and celebrates the inherent ironies and silliness of all the pop culture that we love. But in doing so, I've really just been reliving the passion or enthusiasm I have for those sometimes legacy projects. And I'm at a place where I just want to do new things. I just like new ideas. I'm not trying to reboot G.I. Joe or the Micronauts. Like, I think there's new shit and I want to be a part of it.
We love that. So for people who want to be part of your new shit, White Horse Tavern, how do they find out more? When is the show coming out? Tell us more.
Well, what really happens in production is that if you have an idea, you can either take it to market to sell and get the financing to produce it, or you can put some capital in yourself to render what's called a proof of concept, which is a little more irrefutable because nobody has the same imagination. And you've got to know that the people who are financing stuff in Hollywood are not the most creative people. Like if they were, they would be creatives. But since they're in the finance, they try to come at all these creative concepts from a financial perspective. So what we did, we self-financed our proof of concept and built all of the stuff that goes along with it. So when we're taking the show out to sell, we're selling a very complete concept that someone can just invest in right there. So that's what's happening. We're probably a week or two away from really exploring the marketplace opportunities for this. And I've been focused these last several months on just getting our presentation irrefutable.
And we were privileged enough to see the teaser that you dropped at VCon, which was very, very, very cool.
I'm glad you dug it.
Yeah, and I thought the feedback from everybody was extremely positive. So
I was thrilled, man. It was really, and it's kind of what I hope for with it is just that people see it, that people are interested in it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find, I don't know where this is anymore. I was trying to pull it up, see if I could share a screen to show it to you, but I'm having trouble finding it. But that was the whole idea, right? Was that go to a place like VCon where everybody's already interested and excited about what they believe is coming, what the potential future of any of this is, and show them what we're working on, both to stick a flag in that space and say, we're doing this. This is what it's going to look like. This is how we're integrating these kinds of NFTs or original characters. And I was thrilled, obviously, that we got the reaction that we did.
And Seth, I got to give you a lot of credit. We got a chance to hang out at VCon together. And first of all, you're extremely a genuine dude and a good dude, because the amount of people that stopped you to talk to you, to take a picture with you, to do a FaceTime call with you. I was tired. I was like, I don't know how you do it, but you literally generally stopped for every single one of those people
Yeah.
and had an authentic conversation with them and really enjoyed meeting new humans and speaking to them. And you know, it was very, very clear that like you were having a good time doing it. And
Yeah.
a lot,
Well, I'm
a
there
lot
on
of
purpose,
people.
man. I like all that stuff. I like the stickers and the comics and the all the animation, and I like all these people. Like I moved out to LA when I was really young, and found like a lot of division just by what you're wearing or how you dress, and you think you don't have anything in common with anybody else. You know, I felt very isolated when I was younger, teenager. And I would go to concerts all the time. I just went to shows all the time. I love live music. And I would see people that I didn't think looked like what I thought a person who liked this band would look like. And I always was inclined to be like, hey, who are you? What's your story? And we'd talk and we'd have nothing in common, nothing, except that we both really felt this music. We both really, this band, it meant something to us. And I loved that connection. I loved feeling more connected to other people just by something that we're both passionate about, even if we would have nothing else to discuss. And so going to VCon, you know, like when I go to Comic-Con, I know I'm famous and most of the shit that I'm making is for the people that are there. So there's no way to walk on the floor without getting stopped. And if you're gonna walk on the floor, you got to accept that this is the only time any of these people are ever gonna meet you. And even if it's only 30 seconds, I don't want it to be shitty. You know what I mean?
I love it. Awesome. We appreciate you taking the time to come on and speak with us and sharing your story. We're excited for the project. We hope you get it out there into the world soon so we could bring you back on to talk about it. And I think the most interesting, coolest part about the whole thing is, like you said, right? Like anything could happen. Anybody can appear on the show.
Yeah.
And you know, from a creative standpoint of view, anything's possible, right? And I think bridging those two gaps together, including the live and the animation, there's just so much opportunity to do something that is authentic and cool. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited to have you put this out into the world. And I think the other cool part about it is you're including these other communities and into the space, and you know those mofos are going to go out there and rage hard for this, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're going to come out there and they're, you know, the big premiere, everyone's going to dress up in their ape outfit, in their Dead Fellas outfit, whoever it might be. And they're going to come out there and show support, which is awesome.
Yeah, the other thing I'm working on the Pizza Bot thing. I know I told you about that a little bit. I'm writing a movie with a friend of mine. This came from, I want to make this movie about the secret underground decathlon of pizza delivery that's been going on since the dawn of man. The idea of like pizza as the ultimate communal meal, right? But I started writing this idea, and it's like a cross between After Hours and Big Trouble in Little China, where it's our world, but it's like a world where everyone just accepts that certain things are facts. You know what I mean? And so there'll be a little bit of edgy weirdness in it, and no one will think anything about it. That'll just be the way it is. And one of the teams that competes in this decathlon is the Pizza Bot Prime team. And the pitch behind this was a former animatronic at like a Chuck E. Cheese style pizza palace that was foreclosed upon and left in the chain fenced outside and was struck by lightning, and then almost like short circuit gains self-awareness, seeks develop. Yeah, so I started developing the NFT project with Heavy Metal, but the movie, it'll show the history of this character that found self-awareness, petitioned the courts for his own social security card, was declared by all of the people who had to weigh in as being a sentient being that was recognizable with rights of human citizens. And then he claimed the squatters' rights on the Pizza Palace and built dozens of pizza bots in his image to help build the most perfect pizza manufacturing and delivery service on the planet. So I talked to Heavy Metal about that, and they were like, "Oh, we should release an NFT about the pizza bot and all of the pizza bots that Pizza Bot Prime created." And that way, we could maybe get it's the idea of seeding new intellectual property in Web3, right? So just by creating this project, this exists now. This whole icon, this character, his backstory, that's out in the world and indisputable. And it gives us a core group of fans that are going to be with us directly along the ride of making this movie. And then we're also trying to offer fun utility for the project for the people that bought into it. So at NYC NFT, we teamed up with Made in New York Pizza and got a free slice for anybody that's a Pizza Bot holder.
That's awesome. So the NFT, how many NFTs are out total for that?
Well, this is the fun part, right? So we had conceived that as a 6969 volume collection, but we sold out about 2,100 of them. And the Heavy Metal guys and I talked about what is the most fun and fair way to do this, right? Like, rather than leave a permanent mint that people could mint forever, what if we attempted a kind of Gashapon trade-in program, right? So we've made all of the traits. We've QC'd all of the traits, and the rarity spectrum is a little adjusted because only 2,100 of them were minted. So a lot of stores that I like, where you can buy blind boxes and stuff, they'll crack a whole case of them in the back and then have them displayed, and you can come and trade, right? You can trade your blind box for one of these guys. So we thought maybe there's a technology, we're still trying to work it out if it's possible, but we want to create like a marketplace that's only available to the 2,100 people that had pizza bots to trade it, to burn the one that they bought in exchange for this other one for as long as the supplies last. So we'd have kind of a marketplace where you could see all the traits that hadn't been purchased or burned. And you could trade yours in for that one, just to adjust the trait rarity spectrum so that it isn't like all the first ones that came out or anything like that.
And you've got a chance at, constantly trying to find your pizza bot. Like,
yeah,
go out and find it. It's pretty fun. I like that.
Well, and then I told everybody that's a holder, you can do whatever you want with it. Literally anything you want with it. We've already released 8-bit versions of it that are applicable in some of these other metaverses. And we're going to release a 3D version, sort of like what CloneX did. So you can make a Snapchat filter about it. Hasn't happened yet, but that's what we're working towards. But I like the idea of anybody doing anything they want with their pizza bot, as long as they follow the fact that their pizza bot was created by Pizza Bot Prime. Other than that, they can do literally anything they want.
That's awesome. And then you're working. So basically, you're working on a movie that's going to kind of, and you're using the community as the starting base to say, hey,
well, sort of,
we're doing. Here's.
Yeah, we'll keep them involved because they all own collectively the pizza bots. And so we'll keep them informed as the whole thing is going. But at this point, there's not a new buy-in, I don't think, unless you bought one of the existing ones.
Gotcha. That's awesome, brother. Well, we appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. We know we're going to be following it and seeing what happens with White Horse Tavern. I'm pretty confident that a lot of the communities that are involved in the show and the characters that you own are involved in the show are going to be paying a close attention to it. And like I said, I think it's a super interesting concept because you're doing something that's completely different, right? You could have came out and you could have said, hey, I want to go launch this PFP project, and this is going to be my mark. But you kind of found your niche and decided to build the way that felt authentic to you and right to you. Where can people find you? Where can people find updates? Where can they be checking in?
There's a Pizza Bot Discord, and I mean, I'm my name on all the socials, which is really helpful. So Twitter, it's at Seth Green, and Instagram, it's at Seth Green. I must admit, I have not put a lot into social on a regular basis. I try and just say something when I've got something to say, even if what I have to say is something stupid for your Friday.
I'm sure it's not that. Well, Seth, Really great to have you on the show. Good luck with the Pizza Bot and the White Horse Tavern. We will be watching closely, and when White Horse Tavern comes out, we'd love to have you back on and see which guests you're bringing in and some of the kind of behind the scenes stuff that others don't know. Have a wonderful weekend, and to our
thanks, guys.
Fellow subscribers, smash that subscribe button. Remember that we have our Goat Bolt giveaway, which we'll talk more about in our next show. And as always, happy trading.
Be well, gang.
Later.